We know the Russian investigation could spawn some new charges in the coming new year. Special counsel Robert Mueller has already brought counts, as you know, against the president's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, Manafort's business partner, Rick Gates, and former Trump campaign foreign policy advisor, George Papadopoulos. And now some are predicting that future charges could come certainly against Manafort. Can we expect that? Let's bring in our legal panel, defense attorney, former state prosecutor Stephanie Legros-Willis, and criminal defense attorney and former head county prosecutor in New Jersey, Robert Bianchi. Stephanie and Bob, welcome to you both. Bob, let me start with you. They're talking in Washington about a superseding indictment against Manafort. Can you explain what that is and what potentially we could expect?
It's not an unusual move, especially in a financial crimes case, Eric. What a superseding indictment is additional charges that they add on to the original indictment. And so the superseding indictment adds those additional charges in addition to the ones he previously had. And in my opinion, they're probably going to be adding tax charges at a minimum here. And in a financial crimes case, they usually go about it this way because they're trying to put pressure on Manafort and Gates to drive wedges between them as co-defendants in a case, and obviously to get cooperation moving up the chain of command in the case to hopefully get information, because Manafort has not been cooperating, at least as we know.
Yeah, Stephanie, I mean, can you add more and more charges and potentially, as Bob says, ratchet the pressure up?
Absolutely, and I believe that's exactly what they're trying to do here. There are no ties that the investigation is going to slow down at all. And we know with the superseding indictment, what you can do is narrow down the charges from the original indictment. So as Mr. Bianchi just said, it is likely that there will be some more indictments placed on Manafort and Gates, because we do know that from the original indictment, it stated that more charges were forthcoming. So it was up to Manafort to beware that there were more charges coming.
Well, you know, the Manafort indictments were a conspiracy to launder money, making false statements. Papadopoulos was making one, false statement. So you know what the critics say, Stephanie. It's not collusion. It's not any direct connection with the election and with Russia. These are just, financial crimes or making a false statement to the FBI. Stephanie.
Absolutely. That's been what the administration has been saying. They've been saying it's been a witch hunt. They've been saying that there's been no collusion. But we have seen that throughout this whole process, Mueller's team, throughout the investigation, they have been following the money. And every time they followed the money, they have found something. We know that George Papadopoulos admitted to lying to the FBI. We know that Michael Flynn has recently pled guilty, and now he is cooperating with Mueller's team. And then we can presume that there will be further indictments against Manafort and Gates. So I don't see any chance of this slowing down at all, Eric.
Bob, you talk about General Flynn. The reports say that, he's going to be painted as someone who's lying, trying to save his own skin, as opposed to telling the truth if he does indeed have any evidence against the president.
Well, sure, and that happens in every case, but they're going to find independent, objective evidence to support what he is saying, and he is going to be a major, crucial witness, and they're going to be able to use him, and it's going to come down to his credibility, and with the other independent evidence that supports what it is that he's saying, he's going to be a major witness for the government.
What could that objective, as you call it, independent evidence, what could that be? Emails or?
Yeah, sure. We just don't know right now. I mean, it could be other witnesses, and it can be electronic data like emails, Eric.
And it could also be electronic surveillance if there was any intelligence, comms on this?
Sure, it could be. We just don't know right now, but we know that he's a major witness. And listen, a lot of times we put those witnesses on the stand with no corroborating evidence, and the jury makes a determination whether they believe them or not.
So, Stephanie, I mean, how do you think a Flynn, prosecution or potential use of his grand jury, if there is one, testimony could then play out?
Well, it could play out either way. As Bob stated, it's up to the individuals or the trier of fact to determine his credibility. However, it is shown here that he did stated that he is working with Mueller's team. He's cooperating, with Mueller's team. So it's likely that it'll be up to the trier of fact in order to determine whether or not they find him credible. And this is something that we'll see furthermore in the future. It's something that we can only surmise at this point.
Yeah, and as of course the president has been saying repeatedly in that New York Times interview 16 times, that there's no collusion and we don't know of any public evidence that there has been collusion, Bob, or evidence of direct coordination between the campaign and the Russians that we know of in terms of the election. There were the meetings, of course. So here's what the president said to the New York Times. I want to get your reaction. Part of it saying, quote, Mr. Trump repeated his assertion that Democrats invented the Russia allegations, quote, as a hoax, as a ruse, as an excuse for losing an election. He said that everybody knows his associates did not collude with the Russians, even as he insisted that the real stories are about Democrats who worked with Russians during the 2016 campaign. There's been no collusion, but I think he's going to be fair, Mr. Trump said of Mr. Mueller. After he's called it a witch hunt, after he slammed it, you know, what do you do now? I mean, do you think, in the president's new view, can Mr. Mueller be fair?
I believe Mr. Mueller can be fair, and I believe everybody understands that he can be fair. These are political talking points, and I get that. But as a head of an agency myself, where I was doing things, people on the political world are going to twist it around. I think he's going to be fair, he's going to be independent, and he knows the world is looking at him. And one of the reasons that he is using Flynn is to move up a chain of command here, and there's not that many people further up the chain. The bottom line is going to be they're either going to be exonerated. Collusion, by the way, is not a crime. It's conspiracy. I hate when we're confusing and conflating these terms. Either he's going to be guilty of something or others are going to be guilty or not.
And Stephanie, quickly, fair or not?
No, absolutely he's going to be fair. I mean, he was appointed, Robert Mueller was appointed to this position, and I believe that he's going to absolutely be fair. We have to remember that Mueller has been following the money throughout this whole investigation, and it's leading the chain slowly up further in the Trump administration.
All right, follow the money. We've heard that before,
Absolutely.
so see where any and all this goes. All right, Happy New Year, by the way. I know we'll be busy in the new one.
Thank you,
Eric.
to you.
Bye.